Welcome to part 2 in this series of a deep dive into stereotypes concerning Black people in the United States. Today we'll be looking at the stereotype of absent Black fathers. Before we delve into Black people, let's take a look at the United States as a whole with absent fathers. According to the news magazine of the International Union for the Scientific Study of People, 1 in 4 American children aged 0 to 17, which is about 19 million people, were living in a household without a father. 85% of those, or 16.2 million people, lived with their mother. So, America in general, not just Black children, have an absent father problem. Just take a look at these statistics. We see that since the 1960s, single parent household has been on the rise, reaching over 25% in the 2000s and 2010s. It is very important to note that since the 1960s, single parent households has risen in the US for all races. Let me expound. According to a 2019 Pew Research Center study of 130 countries, the United States had the highest rate of children living in a single parent household of any country at 23%. In comparison, 3% of children in China, 4% of children in Nigeria, which is a predominantly black country, and 5% of children in India lived in a single parent household. In neighboring Canada, it's 15% and 7% in Mexico. The United States was 3.38 times the global average. Let's look at the United States in detail. We see that between 2010 and 2018, which is the period of the Pew Report, the number of children in the United States averaged about 73.4 million per year. White children made up about 52%, Black children made up about 14%, and Hispanics or Latinos made up about 24% as the three largest groups. We see that on average, during the period, 50.4% of Black children lived with a single mother, which is by far the largest percentage. 26.37% of Latinos are Hispanic, and 18.36% of white children, which is the lowest. Now let's compare the lowest, which is white children, to the global population of single parent households. Bear in mind, we are only taking into account single mothers in the US, and the figure is slightly higher if we take into account single fathers. We see that for white children, it is 2.7 times the global population. As a matter of fact, the number of single parent households in the United States as it relates to white children is higher than every African country, with the exception of Sao Tome and Principe. So, it is not a black people problem, it is a United States problem which affects black people in the US disproportionately. The data shows that Hispanics or Latinos is the second highest at an average of 26.37%, and black people are the highest at an average of 50.04%, which is very alarming to me. The question is, why are black single mother homes so prominent? Well, there are many reasons. White people like to point to the fact that it is a natural disposition for black people. Well, it clearly isn't, because based on the 2019 Pew Report, there are a lot more white single mother households in the United States than almost every African or Caribbean country, which are predominantly black nations. So, why then? Before I get into the other factors, black American men must take a lot of the accountability for not being there. You are not blameless and must do better for the sake of our race in that country. Having said that, there are other reasons. While these are present day issues, understand some of them, we have to go back to the past. Let's start off with the war on drugs. The war on drugs officially began in 1971 when Richard Nixon declared drug abuse public enemy number one. Drug laws were enforced disproportionately in black communities. There were harsh sentencing for nonviolent drugs, targeted policing in black neighborhoods, mass incarceration, even though other races used drugs at a similar rate. The result was that many black children grew up without a father because they were incarcerated, while many other drug users of other race probably got to go home to their children and get rehabilitation. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that kids raised without a father are likely to be in a position where they can't be there for their kids for various reasons. So it becomes a generational acquirement in some cases. Another factor is housing segregation and redlining. The federal government, through the Homeowners Loan Corporation and the Federal Housing Administration, created color coded residential security maps of cities. Households with black residents were marked as hazardous and deemed too risky for mortgages, insurance, and investments, regardless of the resident's individual credit worthiness. This led to a considerable generational wealth gap. Home equity has historically been the primary source of wealth for American families. By prohibiting black families from home ownership in appreciating neighborhoods, redlining created an enormous enduring wealth gap that has passed down through generations. Redlining created concentrated poverty, trapped black fathers in neighborhoods with fewer jobs, contributed to overpolicing in these poorer neighborhoods, fueled incarceration, and created a long term environment where maintaining two-parent household became much harder for many black Americans. Another factor is deindustrialization, which began in the 1970s and disproportionately affected black men in the United States. The decline in manufacturing jobs hit black workers hard as these positions provided a path to a strong middle class for black families. It led to significant drops in black male wages and employment rates. Systemic racism meant that when manufacturing jobs declined, black workers were less likely to be able to move to new industries or locations because they faced discrimination in job search and hiring. The economic decline contributed to a drop in marriage rates for both black men and women, an increase in poverty rates, and a rise in the number of children living in single parent households. There are many more factors I could list, but I will leave it at that. I didn't even touch the elephant in the room. A lot of people will say, but these factors don't exist today. And for the most part, they may not, but the damage is already done, and a lot of the remnants of these factors still exist today. And there you have it, folks. I hope you found this video very informative. If you did find it informative, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you in the next video when we will look at another black stereotype.